What's up, everyone? Welcome to the second day of my UX UI challenge. Today, as you probably already know, we're going to be working on the Airbnb website, and more specifically, we're going to be working on this part right here. So this is kind of like not the main part of this page, but it's kind of like a sticky sorry, it's kind of like a sticky banner or a sticky component that kind of slides as you go along the website, and this kind of allows the Airbnb website to have the button always present here, right? The call to action. So this will take you then to the next step where you do your payment and everything else. So it's kind of like the most important element of the website, right? And that is because each website kind of needs to have its own purpose, kind of needs to have its own let's call it goal, right? And in this case, it's actually to reserve. So the button takes you there, and we're gonna be designing it today. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just copy paste this, and I'm gonna go to Figma like this. So obviously we're gonna start with creating a frame, right? And then what we need to do first is we're gonna just make it not that big. You'll see how we're gonna make it this big a little bit later. But let's start with first adding like the rounded corners, right? I think it's like 20 pixels. We're gonna align it at the end if it needs some changing. And the color is already white. Let's just sample this one, and then we need to add a border here, and the color, we're gonna sample this one like this. Okay, so let me just make like a background which is kind of like this color so we see what we're doing. Okay, and then we also kind of need the shadow. Okay, so let's just add like a very big shadow. So select your frame, go down here to the effects panel, click on it like this. You can press the plus button, you can press the effects, and it will add the shadow, but it's a very basic one. So you click on this sun here, and now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna play around with this a little bit. So we're gonna add a little bit more blur, let's say like this, and then I don't know, let's just bring this down a little bit. Okay, yeah, I think it's okay. Doesn't need to be 100%, maybe a little bit less blur, like that. Yeah, okay. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna select this frame, and we're gonna press, we're gonna rename it, and we're just gonna say booking module. I call this a booking module because we have something similar in my work, and we call it booking module there. So that I'm just gonna call it the same, and I'm just gonna make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so we're gonna start with obviously at the top. So what we need is we need like a text layer, and we're just gonna write Euro 404. Okay, and we're gonna make it, let's just sample the color out of this like that. Okay, I'm actually gonna add this color here because I see that I missed this one, like that. Okay, cool. So we see that it's kind of like stricken to strut to, I don't know. So it kind of has like a line through it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go here to these three dots, and down here in the decoration panel we're gonna say strike through like that. And now what we need is we're just gonna make it a little bit bigger. So what you can do actually is, like, I usually just put it like over the screenshot, and then I press K, so I get the scale tool, and then I just kind of make sure you press down shift, and then I just kind of make it bigger. So I usually get to somewhere along where it's basically like the same size, and then I see what the sizes are. So actually, you know, it's not going to be 19.86, but it's going to be 20, and then the line height is going to be 28. Airbnb actually uses its own font or the system font as a backup. So basically you can use whichever font you like. I'm gonna be using SF Pro, or actually let's make it a little bit different, something that all of us have. So let's just use Inter. Inter is a very widely used font, like a web font. So let's just bring this back in and then select our booking module frame and actually add an auto layout here. And we're gonna add paddings like 16 and 16. And then what we need to do is we're gonna duplicate this layer, and we are gonna sample the color, which is dark black color here. Okay, if you don't know how to bring this sampler up, it's I on your on your keyboard, or just go here, press this, and then select it. This one is actually not doesn't have a line through it, so we're gonna remove that, and we're gonna say 222, and then we need another one which says night. Okay, like this, and it cannot be bold and probably needs to be a little bit smaller. Yes, like that. Perfect. So just put it in there. We delete this one. So now we're gonna make this into a line. So we're just gonna select all of these. We're gonna create a new frame by pressing Shift A, and then we're gonna call this price, and we're gonna change the direction to horizontal, and we're gonna align it to the bottom. Now, this is what happens because we have like different sizes, right, of font and of line height. So you see that these kind of are not aligned, right? If you take a look at the screenshot, it's actually aligned like this. So what you can do is like you can play around with it. So it just needs to kind of look the same, right? So you have some hacks you can do. Actually, you know, select the line height of 28 too, or then because the font is a little bit smaller, it also doesn't align. So you just kind of need to make it a little bit different. Don't worry about this. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. You just make it visually the same, you know, visually aligned, so that the developers know that they need to visually align. So now what we also need to do is we need to bring this price and the night word a little bit closer together. So we're gonna select them, we're gonna press Shift A again, and we're gonna reduce the margin to 4 pixels. Okay, cool. So we have that. Let's just make it a little bit less bold. I think it's a little bit too bold. Okay, so now let's go to this second part. Okay, also let's just call this actual price, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move the pricing out, and I'm gonna create it into a component. So how I usually design stuff is I just do everything that it looks perfect, and then I just move it out of there, I make it into a component, and then I make a copy inside of it again. It's just what I found easier for me to do. You can just also do however you want it. You can do everything outside of the frame as a component already and then try it inside, but I just find it a lot easier if I just do it inside of it as a non-component, and then when I'm fine with the result, put it out, create it in the component, put it back in. So let's go to this second part here. So for this second part, we actually need 3 elements. One is this check-in and checkout. Those are pretty much the same, so we're gonna use one component. And then we have the guests, which is a little bit different because it has like this chevron drop-down element, and then everything together is gonna be the third component. So let's go ahead and actually design this one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna copy paste. I'm gonna start with the text, and I'm gonna go with the color like this, and it's all caps, right, as you can see. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go here into these 3 dots again, and I'm gonna select here in case, I'm gonna select the second option, which is uppercase. So no matter how I write something, it always stays in uppercase, and I need to make it a little bit more bold. So again, align it, press K, resize it down, and then you're gonna see that this is actually probably like 10 pixels and 18, or maybe I think 16 will be better. Okay, and then we need the second one. We're just gonna do the date like that, and we're probably gonna need to make it a little bit larger. Okay, like that. So now I'm gonna select both of these, and I'm gonna press Shift A again to make a frame, and I am gonna add some paddings. So 10 on the left and on the right side, like that. Maybe it's 12. Yeah, 12. And on the top and bottom, we're also gonna use 12 for now, and I think that's gonna be also okay. And it's actually probably too much, so I'm gonna use 10 on the top and on the bottom. And I am gonna add fill, so we have a color, and we're gonna select that it has a stroke, because we need to create this line. So you can create this line in two ways. You can create this line on this left element that has a right border, or on this right element that has a left border. But I'm just gonna make it on this first one. So I'm gonna select this, I'm gonna go to stroke, and I'm gonna sample the color like this. And then I'm gonna press this button, which is strokes per side, and I'm gonna select right. So that will only add a stroke on the right side of this element. And you don't need to select all the other strokes, because when we create this whole element, we're gonna add a stroke to it as a whole. So now we're just gonna select it, create it into a component, and then rename it to check-in. Yeah, check-in, okay. And now let's just make 2 copies like this, and select them. And again, Shift A to create a new element and call it dates rows. Make it into a component again like this. Okay. And now we're gonna make the second one. So basically we're just gonna copy paste this first one, because it's basically the same, it only has this icon here, right? So we're gonna make a copy of this one. We're gonna say guests, guests, and then this is one guest. Oh, we actually need to remove the caps. So let's first remove this as a component. So right click and attach instance, and then select this element at the bottom, go to the type settings, and then select as typed. Okay, and now this too needs to be a little bit less bold, like that, and also this one needs to be a little bit less bold. Okay, so now we're gonna bring the icon in. Actually, let's first create it into a component, and we're just gonna call it icon slash drop down. And I should not be writing in all caps, but okay, icon slash drop down, and we need to have it as black. So I'm just gonna add the color because I know it already. And now we're gonna drag this element all the way out, and we're gonna put the icon inside, and we're gonna actually select absolute position here in the top. So this will actually ignore all of the paddings that we have set on the element, on this outer element. So we're just gonna move this icon. I'm gonna align it to the right and to the middle, and then I'm gonna nudge it to left a little bit so it kind of goes away from there. Okay. And also, as you can see, like we've added this border here, but we also need this border right here. Okay, so we're gonna select this. We're actually gonna rename it to guests, like that, and then we're gonna change this stroke from right to top. Okay, select it, make it into a component. We should make this check out, and then let's put a different date, like that. And now we're gonna kind of combine these two. So we're gonna add all of these together, select them, okay? And then select Shift A, so it makes a new frame. And we're gonna say dates and guests, and we're gonna make it into a component like that. And we're gonna select this bottom one we're gonna select the resizing to fill container, and we're gonna select the top one to the fill container. And what we're also gonna do is we're gonna go back here to this dates row. We're gonna select both of these, and we're also gonna say fill container. Okay, now we're just gonna copy this and then go here and paste it. And this is gonna happen because it doesn't know what the size of this booking module is. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna kind of measure this. So I'm just selecting like a rectangle tool, and I'm just gonna drag it across here and kind of line it so it's 372 pixels. Okay, so I'm gonna select the booking module, and I'm gonna press this resizing. I'm gonna select fixed width, and I'm gonna select 372. This is gonna make the width of this booking module fixed 372 pixels, and then we're gonna align the inner elements to be the whole size. I will show you. So now select this dates and guests and go here to the resizing, and if we select this fill container, you see this. I can show you with my mouse because it needs to be on the fill container, but you see these little red dots. These little red arrows which tell you like how the container that you are currently resizing will shape up. So what happens if I select fill container, it's gonna go through the whole width of the image, of the booking module like that. So let me show you. See, and also everything else kind of aligns right now too, because we select the guest row, right? We added it to the fill container. And then also these two are selected to the fill container. So fill container always means that it stretches through the whole width of the element of the parent element. Okay, so what we need to do now is add this stroke that I mentioned earlier. So we're gonna go here to dates and guests. We're gonna select it, and we're gonna just press on stroke, and we're gonna copy paste this color inside. And now if you see here, basically nothing happened, right? And that's because we do not have this on, this clip element. So clip element is basically that everything that is basically outside of this main component of these dates and guests, and everything is kind of free to do whatever it wants. And clip content actually, what that does is it actually kind of like limits everything that is inside to the size of the parent component, if that makes sense. So let me show you what happens if I select clip component. You will see that here on the left there will the border will show up. See, like that. So now we just need to add like this border radius. So we go here and we select like that. Okay, so that's pretty much it. And then the next thing we need to do is, the button, and this you won't be charged yet. So how we're gonna make the button is, let me just put this up here. If this kind of bothers you, so I know for a fact that this element, dates and guests, actually has all of these stuff inside. But if it bothers you how it looks, you just select it and you just kind of like stretch it out, and it will become the right size. And then in here it doesn't matter anyway because we set it to fill container. So even if I make this one smaller, this element will also resize according to it. Okay, so let's make a button. It's super easy. We're gonna select the frame tool. We're gonna just press that. We're gonna rename it to call to action, and we're gonna add the border radius like that. And what we're also gonna do is we're gonna just align it to the size of the button, so 48 pixels. We can also just drag and drop that here. And now we need to add this gradient, right? So how we add the gradient is we go here, we press on this box of color, we go up here, and you have some options here. You know, you have linear, you have radial, you have angular. So these are just different types of gradients you can use, but we're gonna use linear. And then we're gonna remove this one. So the colors, just select the left color, eyedropper, select this dark red, right color, eyedropper, the pink. And now we're just gonna set, you know, it kind of needs to be set at a specific angle, so it's not like up and down. But first we're also gonna do this. We're also gonna select the fill container, and we're gonna type in the text. So I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna select semi-bold and remove the all caps, and I'm just gonna drag and drop it inside like that, and I'm gonna make it into a auto layout. So I'm gonna press this, and now it, as you can see, it kind of got a little bit smaller. That's because we have, in the auto layout, we have the padding set up, right? So if we want to have a fixed width, we just select it, go up here to vertical resizing, and then select fixed height, and then select the 48 pixels like that. And you need to align the text to the middle. So again, select it, and then press this one, the middle horizontally, the middle vertically. You can also now remove the paddings, and now this will kind of allow you to align differently. Okay, if you don't want to use this, you can select contents, but then you need to add a padding, and the padding needs to align with the height. But in these cases, I usually like to do a fixed height and of 48, and then I can kind of like switch it around a little bit as I want to. Not that I usually do that, probably you won't do that anywhere, but just you know that you can. So now we need to change the gradient a little bit more, so click it again, and now we're just gonna drag and drop these two kind of like in a diagonal way. Always make sure that you kind of carry over this end of the gradient over, so don't leave it kind of like inside of it, but kind of carry it over a little bit like that. Okay, that's good. And then now we need this one, so I'm just gonna probably copy paste this like that, and then I'm gonna write you. Why is everything in all caps? You won't be charged yet. And I'm gonna give it a color, and I again need to change this to as typed, and I just see that I actually wrote everything down in all caps, so I need to write it again like that. And I'm gonna reduce the size to 12, sorry, and like that. So I think this should be very similar. Okay, cool. So now we see that the elements are kind of too close together, so we're gonna select the booking module, and we're gonna increase the margins, which is like the the space between elements. We're gonna increase it to 16, and that kind of gives us a little bit more of space. And now we see that this needs to be kind of aligned to the center, right? This one. So there's two ways we can do this. You can select, first of all, let's just make this button into a component. So as I said, I usually drag it out. I create it as a component, and then I just copy paste it back in. So this you can do in two ways. You can select the text style, and you can actually put it to fill container, and then use the alignment to the center. That's one way. And then the other way is you can actually combine these two elements. You can press Shift A to make a new auto layout frame, and let's say CTA, and you can align it to the center like that. So depending on what your situation is, I use both of these cases depending on the situation. Sometimes I use just the fill container and then the alignment to the center, or I create a new frame and I actually align it to the center as a frame as a whole. Okay, and now we're gonna make this lines here. So the pricing lines, sorry. So again, I'm gonna copy paste this so I don't have to repeat it, and I will just increase it a little bit, sorry, like that. And I need to write down to x5 nights, like that, and we need to have it like underlined. So again, go to the three dots and select decoration underline like this, and then here on the left, sorry, on the right, we just need the price, and it cannot be underlined, it just needs to be normal one. So we're gonna remove the underline, and what we're also gonna do is we're gonna align it to the right, because the text itself is aligned to the right. So whatever we want to write down, we also want the text itself to be aligned to the right. Okay, so now we're gonna select these, Shift A to create an auto layout frame, and we're just gonna call this pricing row, and we're gonna make it into a component. And we are gonna select obviously the horizontal direction, and we're gonna select the middle vertical alignment, and we're gonna press again here to and press X, so it changes the specified margin, it changes it to the actual space in between. So if we now take a look what happens if I resize this with the specified margin, whatever I do, the margin stays the same. But if I click on this again, oh, you can actually press X, so the number, sorry, the letter X, it changes the space in between, and now see what happens. It always aligns this for the elements to be kind of like pushed apart, whatever the size is, right? So we want this to be like that with the space in the space between. And okay, we need basically 3 of those. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the main one here. Let's just change this to something different. Okay, so we need 3 of those. So I'm gonna put the main one here, and I'm gonna make 3 duplicates, and I'm gonna select them, and again Shift A to create an auto layout frame, and I will set the margins to kind of like 8 pixels. Okay, maybe a little bit more, probably 16. Okay, and I will just do the different things, cleaning fee, and then we have the service fee, and then we're just gonna do the different types of pricing. So let's just change this to 87, and let's just change this to 0. Okay, and now I'm gonna select this frame, and I'm gonna make it into a component, and I'm gonna name it pricing, and I'm just gonna drag and drop it in here. Again, select the fill container option, and then you also need to select the pricing. So you need to go inside of the pricing, and you need to select all of these lines here, and you also need to put them to fill container. Okay, perfect. Okay, now those seem a little bit too far apart. I just bring it a little bit closer together. So now what we need to do is this line here and the total. So basically what we're gonna do here is we're gonna select the pricing row, and we're gonna press this add variant here at the top, and we're gonna say this is total, and we're gonna call this one the normal, and let's just give them type name. Okay, so everything in here is basically the same, it just needs to be bold. So I'm gonna select both of these elements, and I'm gonna make them bold, and I'm gonna rename them. This one is total, and this is kind of like that. And now copy it, go here, paste it. Again, you need to do the same thing. You need to select it to a fill container, and now we just need to add this separator. So what I usually do is I just make a frame like this, and I put the height to 1 pixel like this, and let's give it a color. You can just do this normally, or you can actually create it into a component and you call it separator. And again, copy it, go here, paste it inside, and again you need to select the fill container option. Right? Pretty simple. So let me just kind of like teach you a little bit. Also, let's advance a little bit more. And what we're also going to do is we will be doing, let's say, first of all, we're going to check if everything works. So everything resizes as it should. So just select the booking module and kind of like resize it, and then you see that this part doesn't resize. So what we need to do is we need to go back, we need to select this part, this frame, and we actually need to put it to fill container, and then also both elements inside need to be to fill container, and then this one needs to be to the middle. Now it should work. Yeah, okay, that's perfect. And what we can also do now is, for example, sometimes, let's say Airbnb is doing like an A/B test, right? So they will be testing if they should not have the button inside of the booking module and have it somewhere else, right? So what you can do that quickly and easily is like select the booking module and actually make it into a component now. And again, you can just now click here on the add variant here. Okay, it added it in a bit weird way, so let's just change this to horizontal, and we're gonna call this CTA, and we're gonna press this one, select the first one, we're gonna say yes, and the second one we're gonna say no. So this means that this one will have the call to action button and this one won't. So now we're gonna select this frame that has our call to action button inside, and we're gonna go here in the layer panel, we're gonna select create boolean property, and we're gonna say show call to action, and we're gonna say false, like that. So now you just have two different parts here, right? So how do you kind of then use this in your day-to-day life, for example, right? You would do this in like your design system or your style guide library, and then you would just be using a copy of this over through your website, right? So what you would do is you would actually just make a copy, and then you select it, and then you just press here on the right. You will see the properties here, right? This part, and you just have this toggle that just kind of gives you a yes or no. Right? Super easy. You don't want it, you just press it. And then you want it back, you give it back. Okay? Super easy. Thank you guys for watching. It's been 35 minutes. I think it's been quite some stuff that we learned today. Just remember, if you have like resizing elements, remember that always you need to put most of the time you need to put like the fill container resizing option on it. And that kind of allows you, to resize everything. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'll see you tomorrow in the next one. Hope you enjoyed.